Ah, Good afternoon, friends. This is Rasesh Thakkar from Toronto in the afternoon of Saturday, March the 11th, 2017. I'm very happy. Just a minute. Can you cut the light to a certain extent? It's too much. Or maybe give me still a little more, perhaps. Oh, okay, all right. Good afternoon, friends. This is Rasesh Thakkar from Toronto on March the 11th, Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock. I'm very, very happy to welcome all of you all over the internet to the inauguration of what we have called what have we called? I forget. No. Open house. Oh God. Okay, once again, please. Are we live? Oh God. Good afternoon, friends. This is Rasesh Thakkar from Toronto, afternoon of 11th March 2017. I'm very happy to welcome you all to what we have called the Open House, the Kalanidhi Open House 2017. It is in connection with the festival, the International Dance Festival that we have called Whirling Streams, that we are presenting on 28th of, I don't know, we are live, so I cannot stop now in between. Oh, I thought we were recording. This is Good afternoon, friends. This is Rasesh Thakkar from Toronto in the afternoon of 11th March 2017. This is in connection with the 16th Kalanidhi International Dance Festival called Whirling Streams that we are presenting on the opening on the 28th of March and going on until 2nd of April. Open house, the concept that we have borrowed from the real estate selling and buying. Well, that simply means that in the case of whirling streams, for a period from today onwards until the beginning of the festival on the 28th, that period is going to welcome all of you and any of you to the studio, the Manakatika Dance Company studio in Toronto, and we are going to talk anything and everything about the upcoming festival. We want to spend these days in the company of our potential audience so that we can get to know one another and we can explain as much as we can to the audience, to the potential audience, and carry them with us from today until the beginning and almost the end of the festival, for all 6 days of the festival. This is a new relationship that we want to develop with our audience. Kalanidhi as an institution has been presenting international festivals since 1993. These festivals were presented by Sudha Khandwani, the artistic director of Kalanidhi, who was also the founder of Kalanidhi Fine Arts of Canada. She had spent all her life in the pursuit of dance, and in Canada particularly, she started presenting dance rather than choreographing and performing herself. This happened in 1993, and she made it a mission of her life to bring awareness and a good understanding of Indian dance in all its ramifications. She took up a challenge offered by the jury of the Canada Council long ago, when someone had remarked that Indian dance, although very magnificent in its development, was now probably a bit irrelevant because it always spoke about bygone ages, gods and goddesses and kings and queens. And Sudha wanted to point out that no, it was a very vibrant dance form, contributing and developing with each contribution the contemporary face of Indian dance. In order to meet the challenge, she started presenting festivals, the international festivals, because she was aware by then that Indian dance was no longer confined to the geographical boundaries of India. It had gone far outside, and now it was developing all over the world within the cultural boundaries of the Indian diaspora. And she wanted to bring that sense, that excitement, that wonderment that was there in the unfolding and development and the evolution of Indian dance in the diaspora. Sudha affected a number of artists in the growth of their own artistry, in the growth of their own creativity. But last November, just a few months ago, she passed away. It was a shock to all of us, but in our dismay and bewilderment, we started the event called the Memorial in memory of Sudha on 18th of December. And we soon realized that there were a number of accomplished artists, accomplished and emerging artists, who were indebted to Sudha one way or the other, and they all wanted to pay that tribute to the memory of Sudha. And it became very clear that one evening of dance or one evening of a memorial event was not going to be sufficient to carry on this task. And therefore we announced that it will be done in installment, nearly 4 or 5 installments, till we will reach March, when the entire 16th Kalanidhi festival was scheduled to be presented in Toronto. So the series of tributes starting in December will continue, and then finally these tributes will come to an end in the festival wording streams, the 16th festival itself. We have now lined up a number of cutting-edge dancers, and we are trying to carry the work of Sudha forward. We want to talk about the festival, we want to talk about the background of the festival, we want to talk about the wonderful artists that we have lined up, and we want to carry a sense of a deeper and growing understanding and appreciation of Indian dance. A landmark development had taken place in the dissemination of the festival program that Sudha had organized. And that happened with the acquisition of the live streaming technology by Manaka Thakkar, the younger sister of Sudha. And she was also introduced to Bharatanatyam dance by Sudha when Manaka was very young. It was quite clear to us that Indian dance was now just waiting to be introduced to a much larger viewing public. Not only in India, not only in Canada, but all around. And the new technology of live streaming was going to be a great aid in fulfilling that dream of all of us, but Sudha in particular, and Manka's already growing attempts at both choreographing and presenting dance through that particular medium. This is the salient feature of the 16th festival also. We are going to present the 6-day festival in 3 formats. Well, one format will be the traditional format of presenting live dance performed on the stage before an audience that is gathered physically live into the auditorium. The second format, in which the dance would be carried to a large number of people beyond the boundaries of the city of Toronto, will be the use of live streaming, so that we have been trying for the last 2 years now to develop and perfect this technology, so that we are trying to take the dance into the neighborhoods of people rather than expect that the people would travel long distances, pay high prices, and get into the venue, physical venue, where dance was being presented. I will not go into the details of the advantages and the challenges which are inherent in this particular way of dissemination. It will unfold both during the festival through symposia and discussions, but it will impose most dramatically in the experience of the audience themselves. The live streaming will be again presented in 2 different ways. One will be live streaming carried to public places like the cinema theaters, such as the Cineplex or the Woodside Cinema in Toronto, where on a large screen it will be a very different and perhaps a more fulfilling and satisfying experience to watch the dance. This is the experiment that we have undertaken. And with your support and with the critical acclaim by people, this particular experiment will come to its fruition. And there is a third aspect to this presentation, and that is live streaming over the internet will enable us to take dance into the homes of people, into the privacy and comforts of their own living rooms. They can watch it on their computers, on their laptops, on their smartphones even if they wish to. This particular experiment of presenting Indian Dance Festival in 3 simultaneous formats is very challenging. We are in a sense creating competition against ourselves, because one way of presenting will certainly compete with the other way. It is our earnest hope that people will sample the viewing experiences of all 3 formats provide their critical comments and observations to us and help us to come to some definitive results, because we believe that there are a number of great advantages of this technology, and we would like to live up to the expectations both of the viewing public and the expectations inherent in the art form itself. The open house that we are inaugurating today is intended to carry this experiment with the help of the people, so that for a period of nearly more than 2 weeks that this experiment, this open house will be conducted, we shall not only want to talk to people, we want to show them excerpts from various dances which will be presented to the festival. We want also to take the public into the archival footage of Kalanidhi that has been gathered over a number of years. And this way we want to elicit, to draw out various types of challenges. In the open house, several things will happen. We shall present the festival and its programming in as much detail as this free environment of the open house will let us do. We shall show excerpts from the intended presentations of the festival. We shall interview the artists themselves about their own creative process. They may give us background information about the choreography itself. They may even get up and illustrate a movement here and there, so that in this open house space and time, it will be a relaxed atmosphere in which people will be able to absorb the elements of the works of the artists as well as the challenges offered by the technology. We are going to have every Saturday and Sunday from now onwards until the beginning of the festival, nearly 4 to 5 hours of programming in the open house. That will also include the lucky draws of tickets that we want to give out free to the lucky winners. We would also present some critical remarks by the dance critics who may not be available in Toronto, but who may be able to speak to us over the Skype call from other cities or even other countries. And we shall come to know the dreams and the efforts of the artists themselves to grapple with the many-sided problems of this new technology. I have the whole programming here. I want to talk about the details of this programming. I want to lay bare to you as to why we chose one program over the other. I want you to reflect upon it. I would like you to ask and comment. I will not do this today. I'll start doing this whole exercise from tomorrow onwards. But today I just want you to enjoy the dance experience, because we are going to show you a film called In the Further Soil, which was made to reflect the 40-year experience of one of the choreographers of Indian dance in Toronto, namely Maneka Thakkar, whose intention 40 years ago was to transplant in a very, very small way, transplant the dance culture of India into Canada. That small experience, or the small experiment, grew into a very large development and large result, but it was also full of anxiety on the part of Maneka as to how she would be able to grapple with the inherent problems of this transplantation of a tradition that grew under a very different sky, with the whole cultural attitudes and the sensibilities that were different, and now they were to be presented to the young generation of Indo-Canadians to start with, but all Canadians to end with. It is a film that reflects the concerns of all of us, one way or the other. And it is full of the new experiments in the dance movements and dance formations. So I think we will be able to tell this story to ourselves as to how, even unknown to ourselves, we have been nurturing these concerns and anxieties and trying to grapple with the possible solutions. In the Further Soil, a dance tradition that slowly developed over centuries in the soil of India was now being transplanted into the further soil of Canada. Thank you very much. You will see this, and then tomorrow we shall take up the more systematic explanation and understanding of the programming of the festival. Thank you very much.
प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये।
This is the story of transplantation of a dance tradition from its native soil of India into the further soil of Canada. Maneka Thakkar was a well-known performer, teacher and choreographer in India, functioning in the classical dance traditions of Bharatanatyam and Odissi before she came to Canada in the early 1970s. Here, functioning in her triple roles, she started transplanting both her life and her dance in the new land. In the process, she discovered many other dance traditions, which inspired her to experiment widely with new forms. This inner journey, while liberating her in many ways, also deepened her insights and strengthened her roots in her own traditions. This production is choreographed to capture that story on multiple levels.
धन जनु धिमितता ताम 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 धन जनु धिमितता ताम 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 धन जनु धिमितता धनतताम जनु तताम धिमितताम ताम ताम धन जनु धिमितता धनतताम जनु तताम धिमितताम ताम ताम धन जनु धिमितताम धनतताम जनु तताम धिमितताम ताम ताम धन जनु धिमितताम धनतताम जनु तताम धिमितताम ताम ताम धन जनु धिमितताम धनतताम जनु तताम धिमितताम ताम ताम धन जनु धिमितताम धनतताम जनु तताम धिमितताम ताम ताम धन जनु धिमितताम धनतताम जनु तताम धिमितताम ताम ताम धन जनु धिमितताम ताम 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 धन जनु धिमितताम धनतताम जनु तताम धिमितताम ताम ताम धन जनु धिमितताम धनतताम जनु तताम धिमितताम ताम ताम धन जनु धिमितताम धनतताम जनु तताम धिमितताम धन तताम जनु जनु तताम धिमितताम धनत जनु त धिमित धन धन तताम जनु जनु तताम धिमितताम धनत जनु त धिमित धन धन तताम जनु जनु तताम धिमितताम धनत जनु त धिमित धन धन तताम जनु जनु तताम धिमितताम धनत जनु त धिमित धन धन तताम जनु जनु तताम धिमितताम धनत जनु त धिमित धन धन तताम जनु जनु तताम धिमितताम धनत जनु त धिमित धन धन तताम जनु जनु तताम धिमितताम धनत जनु त धिमितताम धीम धन जनु धिमितताम धीम जनु धिमि जनु तताम धीम धन जनु धिमित जनु धिमि जनु त धन जनु धिमितताम धीम धन जनु धिमितताम धीम जनु धिमि जनु तताम धीम धन जनु धिमित जनु धिमि जनु त धन जनु धिमितताम धीम धन जनु धिमितताम धीम जनु धिमि जनु तताम धीम धन जनु धिमित जनु धिमि जनु त धन जनु धिमितताम ताम ताम धन जनु धिमितताम धनतताम जनु तताम धिमितताम ताम ताम धन जनु धिमितताम धनतताम जनु तताम धिमितताम धनतताम जनु तताम धिमितताम धनतताम जनु तताम धिमितताम
To study a banyan tree, you not only must know its main stem in its own soil, but also must trace the growth of its greatness in the further soil, for then alone you can know the true nature of its vitality.
When I was a little girl, I loved the trees in our backyard, and I often imagine that I was myself a tree. When my hair began to grow long, I knew that I would grow up tall like a tree and my branches would spread all around me. It was only later that I realized that I was truly becoming a branch of the mighty banyan of Indian dance, and I was being put out into the further soil of Canada. Here I would take root, and new seedlings would sprout from me and grow into lovely shoots swaying and dancing in the wind.
Kevi ajab che vivat che, Kevi ajab che vivat che, Nana mara hat e tali pare sat, e to Kevi ajab che vivat che. My hands are so small, but they can clap like my mom's. Isn't that amazing?
My feet are so small, but they can dance like Manakadi. Isn't that amazing?
My eyes are so small, but they can see everything my mom can see. Isn't that amazing?
Angikam bhuvanam yasya vachikam sarvavangmayam aharyam chandrataradi tam namah satvikam shivam.
When I first started teaching in Canada, this mighty voice of tradition kept echoing in my mind. I was constantly worried if I would be able to impart to my students this ancient tradition in its purest form. But how can I? These children are born and they grow up under a different sky. They are attuned to a life which gives very different signals to their bodies and minds. Their inner world of myths and fantasies, where they view their dreams, is so far removed from the one that is inherent in Indian dance. How is the gap to be bridged? Then I recall the words of Srimati Rukmini Devi Arundel, who played the central role in reviving and reconstructing Bharatanatyam dance form in the last century. Tradition is not something that one inherits, but something that one labors to repossess differently in every period of history. Now I knew that this was going to be both a challenge and an opportunity to enlarge my life and my art. I would now have to repossess what until then I had merely inherited. Tachum tari takatam, takachum tari takate, tachum tari takachum tari tate tam, tadinganatum, tadinganatum, tadinganatum.
Menaka Didi, what are you saying?
Oh, I'm speaking the language of your dancing feet.
Who do they speak to?
When you dance, they speak to the ground you dance upon. They speak back to the drums that play with your dance. They speak to my little cymbals. Listen. Tajum tari takatam, takajum tari takatai, tajum tari takajum tari ta te tam, tai tititai, tai tititai, tai tititai. And finally, they speak to the odd. Nina, would you like to try then?
Talanku takatadin ginatom.
Now let's see.
Da sa sa re ga pa da sa re ga sa.
That's good. Okay, so be ready for dance.
Re sa da pa ga re da sa sa re ga pa da sa re ga sa re sa da pa ga re da sa re ga pa da sa re ga jadi kada tum sajjam tari jagata tuku tari dagu tari kada daga jum tari sagati tuku tari dagu tari kada daga sajjam tari jagata daga jum tari sagati sajjam tari daga jum tari da nitta sajjita daga digu daga tum sajjam tari daga jum tari da nitta sajjita daga digu daga tum sajjam tari daga jum tari da nitta Sajjita, daga digu daga sumka, eka da paga, eka pa da sa eka sa, eka da paga, eka pa da sa eka sa. Hey
स्त्रीपताकोऽयम् अर्धपताककर्तरी मुखः मयूरास्यो अर्धचन्द्रश्च अरालशुकतुण्डकः.
Hold the tips of the middle finger and ring finger together and apply them to the thumb while extending the rest of the fingers. This position is called Simhamukha.
Okay, girls, come. Let us all sit down here in the circle. Listen, do you remember last time we talked about the language of our dancing feet? Today we are going to talk about the language of fingers.
Is it like the sign language that the people use when they can't speak or hear?
Well, yes and no. Like the sign language, we do use our fingers, palm, hands, etc. But there are important differences too. Our dance language of fingers is more stylized and graceful. And it is almost always used together with the language of eyes and various facial expressions. Also, we use the language of the whole body and its movements, the way the body bends, stretches, and moves, even while the eyes and fingers are speaking their languages. That is why the total effect is that you do not only communicate the meaning of your words, but you also evoke strong emotions behind the words through this dance language. With its help, you can tell any story, interpret any poem, act out any dramatic role, and everything without uttering a single word.
Stories? We love stories, Manakadi. Please tell us a story. Yeah, please tell us a story.
Yes, I will tell you a story. And I will also teach you to tell the story through your dance. This is a story about Lord Krishna when he was a little boy. Tell me, who knows about Krishna? Who was Krishna?
Oh, I know who Krishna was. He was a god, he played the flute, and he was black in color.
No, I saw a picture of Krishna and he's blue.
Oh, black or blue, he was very mischievous.
Mischievous? Is God allowed to be mischievous? Oh, yes. He broke all the pots of the gopis. He ate all their butter. He even stole their clothes when they went to bathe in the rivers.
Steal? Are gods allowed to steal?
Oh no, remember Manakiti told us it was all symbolic. It all has a deep philosophical meaning.
Oh, philosophy or no philosophy, I love that blue mischievous god.
Have you seen Krishna?
No, I've been looking for him everywhere. Do you know what he did to me? The other day, I went to the river to fetch him. He blocked my path and wouldn't let me pass. He asked me.
Do you know what he did to me? I was trying to make butter. He came up behind me and covered my eyes. He kept bothering me.
The other night, while I was sleeping, he came and embraced me. I thought it was my husband.
He's definitely not a child.
We will never be able to catch him.
There he is.
ಚಿಕ್ಕವನೇ ಕೈಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕದೆ ಓಡುವನು ಚಿಕ್ಕವನೇ ಇವನು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೈಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕದೆ ಓಡುವನು ಚಿಕ್ಕವನೇ ಇವನು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೈಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕ
The years began to roll by, and these children kept growing up. For all of them, learning dance was not merely learning steps, movements, and compositions, rooted into the life and sensibilities of another world. The expressional part of Indian dance is rooted in the interpretation of poetry and storytelling through mime. Here, life as a whole, with all the underlying stress and details of Indian culture, are evoked, explained, and expressed. The questioning attitude of all these teenagers helped to accentuate this aspect of cultural transfer, because everything was questioned and had to be discussed, debated, and explained. For Manaka, it was often an exercise in self-questioning, self-doubt, and self-discovery. For these children, exposed to the values and lifestyles of their ancestral land. It was also a more successful way. A typical Indian character in interpreting a lyrical or a dramatic poem would force them to reproduce the otherwise unfamiliar emotions and physical gestures. The process was not merely intellectual, it was downright physical and emotional, and therefore more immediate and compelling. Their parents were delighted. A father was ecstatic to see for the first time that his daughter could feel shy like a typical Indian bride.
All right, girls, let's get started. What are you doing?
What do you mean, what are we doing? We're warming up.
How can you be warming up on the stage with the audience right in front of you?
But Sukanya, Varnam is such a long and complex number. Just how did you expect us to perform tonight without warming up?
You think that this Varnam is a long and complex number? Did you know that Menakadi first choreographed it for 45 minutes and then re-choreographed it to 23 minutes for the benefit of you and our good audience?
But it's still a very complex choreography with difficult jatis and rhythmic patterns. And on top of that, we have to know the song, its meaning, its background stories, and we have to evoke the right emotions of love, wonder, fear, and devotion. I have an idea. Why don't we explain the stories to the audience so they can understand it better?
What? Divulge the storyline to the audience? Do you know how angry Menakadi would be if she knew that we're just telling the audience the story? She always says that our dance should be so effective that it should speak for itself.
Yes, but some of these stories might be unfamiliar to all these good people. I think if we quickly explained it, they could understand it better.
What about Menakadi?
Don't worry. I saw her going into one of the dressing rooms earlier. We can finish explaining it before she gets back. Right, guys?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, but let's do this quickly. Now, as you all know, this Varnam is in praise of the six-faced god, Lord Shanmuga.
No, isn't it in praise of Lord Muruga?
No, isn't it praise of Lord Kartikeya?
Isn't he the son of Lord Shiva?
And brother of elephant-headed Lord Ganapati?
Okay, thank you all very much. But can you please stop interrupting me and confusing our poor audience with all your wisdom and knowledge?
Quiet, all of you. Let Sukanya and Nina take care of this. We have to go soon. Menakadi's going to be here.
Thank you. Now, in the first line, the poet says, "Oh, you, Lord Muruga, please, with all your compassion, come to me."
And then comes the second line about Lord Kamadeva, who was burned by the third eye of Shiva. The energy from his third eye produced 6 lotus flowers with 6 babies on them. When Parvati saw these babies, she thought they were so beautiful. So she hugged them all, in which they became one body with 6 heads.
That's right. And the third story talks of Muruga's weapon, the bear,
which he used to kill the evil demon Padmasura.
Meghna, be quiet. We don't need your brave battles here.
Okay, let's just keep going. And the final story talks of Muruga's 2 marriages. Now, you all know that he had 2 wives, right?
Yeah.
His first wife was the daughter of Lord Indra, Devyani.
And that's me.
The second wife was Valli, a gypsy girl whom he met in the forest and was completely smitten with.
And that's me. But at first, she refuses all his advances.
Which is when he calls upon his brother Lord Ganesha to come in the form of an elephant. Do you know why?
Well, of course. Valli was terribly afraid of elephants. And that's when I enter as Lord Ganesh to scare her away into Lord Muruga's waiting arms. Girls, I see Menakadi. Come quick, let's go.
மனமிரங்கி வந்தருள்வா நீ மனமிரங்கி வந்தருள்வா நீலமயில் வாகனனே நீ மனமிரங்கி வந்தருள்வா தளங் குத்தக்கத்தி குத்தக்கத்து தாக்கு கிட்ட தொந்தா தி நு த தி மி தா ஹ த ஜம் த ரி த ரி த க க ந த க ஜ நு த க தி மி த கும் க ரி கி ட த க த க தி நு த தி மி த ஹ த ஜம் த ரி த ரி த க க ந த க ஜ நு த க தி மி த கும் த ரி கி ட த க த தி நு த தி மி த ஹ த ஜம் த ரி த ரி த க க ந த க ஜ நு த க தி மி த கும் த ரி கி ட த க த க தி நு த தி மி த ஹ த ஜம் த ரி த ரி த க க ந த க ஜ நு த க தி மி த கும் த ரி கி ட த க த தி நு த தி மி த ஹ த ஜம் த ரி த ரி த க க ந த க ஜ நு த க தி மி த கும் த ரி கி ட த க த க தி நு த தி மி த ஹ த ஜம் த ரி த ரி த க க ந த க ஜ நு த க தி மி த கும் த ரி கி ட த க த தி நு த தி மி த ஹ த ஜம் த ரி த ரி த க த ந த க ஜ நு த க தி மி த கும் த ரி கி ட த க த க தி நு த தி மி த ஹ த ஜம் த ரி த ரி த க த ன த க ஜ நு த க தி மி த கும் த ரி கி ட த க த தி நு த தி மி த ஹ த ஜம் த ரி த ரி த த ன த ரி த ரி த த ன த க தி நு த தி மಿ ತ ಹ ತ ಜಂ ದ ರಿ ತ ರಿ ತ ಧ ನ ತ ರಿ ತ ರಿ ತ ತ ನ ತ ದಿ ನು ತ ಧಿ ಮಿ ತ ಹ ತ ಜಂ ದ ತ ಕ ದಿ ನು ತ ಧಿ ಮಿ ತ ಹ ತ ಜಂ ದ ರಿ ತ ಕ ತ ದ ದಿ ನು ತ ಧಿ ಮಿ ತ ಹ ತ ಜಂ ದ ರಿ ತ ಕ ದಿ ನು ತ ಧಿ ಮಿ ತ ಹ ತ ಜಂ ದ ರಿ ತ ಹಿ ಕ ತ ದ ದಿ ನು ತ ಧಿ ಮಿ ತ ಕ ದಿ ನು ತ ಧಿ ನ ಕ ದಿ ನು ತ ಧಿ ಮಿ ಕ ತ ದಿ ನು ತ ಧಿ ತ ದಿ ನು ದಿ ನು ತ ತ ದಿ ನು ತ ದಿ ನು ತ ತ ತ ತಿ ಕ ತ ತ ತ ತಿ ಕ ತ ತ ತ ತಿ ಕ ತ ತ ದಿ ನು ದಿ ನು ತ ತ ದಿ ನು ತ ದಿ ನು ತ ತ ತ ತಿ ಕ ತ ತ ತ ತಿ ಕ ತ ತ ತ ತಿ ಕ ತ ತ ದಿ ನು ದಿ ನು ತ ತ ದಿ ನು ತ ದಿ ನು ತ ತ ಕ ತ ಕ ತ ರಿ ಕ ತ ತ ಕ ತ ಕ ತ ರಿ ಕ ತ ತ ಕ ತ ಕ ತ ರಿ ಕ ತ ನೀ மனமிரங்கி வந்தருள்வா நீலமயில் வாகனனே நீ மனமிரங்கி வந்தருள்வாய். 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 தனம் குத்தக்க திக்கு தக்க தத்திக்கிட்ட சொந்த தகதி தின் தக்கிட்ட தக்க கதி தன ஜனுதா ஹத்தக்கிட்ட தக்கத்த தகதி தின் தக்கிட்ட தக்க கதி தன ஜனுதா ஹத்தக்கிட்ட தக்கத்த ಚಿತ್ತ தன்னತ தன்னத்து ஜனுதா ஜனுத்த திமித திமித்தங்கட கரிகட தட்டி தட்டி தன்ன தன்ன ஜுன்னுத்த திம்மி திம்மி தங்கடதுக்கு தரிகடதுக்கு தட்டித்த தன்னத்த ஜுன்னுத்த திமித்த தட்டித்த தித்த தக்க திக்கு கಡದಕ್ಕೆ ತರಿಗಡದು ತಕ್ಕ ದಿಕ್ಕು ಕಡದಕ್ಕೆ ತರಿಗಡದು ತಕ್ಕ ದಿಕ್ಕು ಕಡದಕ್ಕೆ ತರಿಗಡದು ತಟ್ಟಿತ್ತ ದನ್ನತ್ತ ಜುನ್ನುತ್ತ ದಿಮಿತ್ತ ತಟ್ಟಿತ್ತ ದಿತ್ತ ತಕ್ಕ ದಿಕ್ಕು ಕಡದಕ್ಕೆ ತರಿಗಡದು ತಕ್ಕ ದಿಕ್ಕು ಕಡದಕ್ಕೆ ತರಿಗಡದು ತಕ್ಕ ದಿಕ್ಕು ಕಡದಕ್ಕೆ ತರಿಗಡದು ತಟ್ಟಿತ್ತ ದನ್ನತ್ತ ಜುನ್ನುತ್ತ ದಿಮಿತ್ತ ತಟ್ಟಿತ್ತ ದಿತ್ತ ತಕ್ಕ ದಿಕ್ಕು ಕಡದಕ್ಕೆ ತರಿಗಡದು ತಕ್ಕ ದಿಕ್ಕು ಕಡದಕ್ಕೆ ತರಿಗಡದು ತಕ್ಕ ದಿಕ್ಕು ಕಡದಕ್ಕೆ ತರಿಗಡದು ನೀ மனமிரங்கி வந்தருள்வாய். நீலமயில் வாகனனே நீ மனமிரங்கி வந்தருள்வாய். நீலமயில் வாகனனே காமனை கண்ணிலுதித்த சிவஷண்முகனே காமனை எரித்த சிவனார் கண்ணிலுதித்த சிவஷண்முகனே காமனை எரித்த சிவனார் முதல் கண்ணிலுதித்த சிவஷண்முகனே காமனை எரித்த சிவனார் சிவஷண்முகனே காமனை எரித்த சிவனார் கண்ணிலுதித்த தன குத்தக்க திக்குத்தக்க தத்திக்கிட்ட தின்னம் த பிருகு தின்னம் த த தி கிண்ணத்தம் தின்னம் த பிருகு தின்னம் த த தி கிண்ணத்தம் தின்னம் த திருக்குத தின்னம் தெய் ததி கிண்ணத்து தின்னம் த திருக்குத தின்னம் தெய் ததி கிண்ணத்து தின்னம் த பிருகு தின்னம் த தத் பிருகு தின்னம் தெய் தத்தி பிருகு தின்னம் த தின்தரி தத்திமி தரிதா தின்தரி தத்திமி தரிதை தின்னம் தரி தின்னம் தரி தித தித கಡದಕ್ಕೆ ತರಿಗಡದು ತರಿಗಡದು ದಿತ ದಿತ ಕಡದಕ್ಕೆ ತರಿಗಡದು ತರಿಗಡದು ದಿತ ದಿತ ಕಡದಕ್ಕೆ ತರಿಗಡದು காமனை எரித்த சிவனார் முதல் கண்ணிலுதித்த சிவஷண்முகனே காமனை எரித்த சிவனார் கண்ணிலுதித்த சிவஷண்முகனே உரமிகும் சூரனை இருக்கூறாக்கி சேவலும் மயிலுமாய் ஒரு மாறவேல் விடுத்த 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 உரமிகும் சூரனை இருக்கூறாக்கி தளங் குத்தக்கத்தி குத்தக்கத்த தத்தி கெட்டத்து தீம் த தீம் த நட்ன ஜன்னு திம்மி தக்கிட்ட தண்ண த ஜன்னு த திம்மி தக்கிட்ட தீம் த தீம் த தண்ண ஜன்னு திம்மி தக்கிட்ட தண்ண த ஜன்னு த திம்மி தக்கிட்ட தீம் தீம் தக்கதீம் ததீம் 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 தக்கதீம் தத்ததீம் தத்ததீம் தத்த தும் கடதகதரி கடதகதீம் ததீம் தத்த தீம் தக்கதகதீம் தத்த தீம் தக்கதீம் தத்ததீம் தத்ததீம் தத்த தும் கடதகதரி கடதகதீம் ததீம் ததீம் தீம் தக்கதீம் ததீம் ததீம் தீம் தக்கதீம் ததீம் தத்ததி கிண்ணத்தும் ததீம் கிண்ணத்தும் ததீம் கிண்ணத்தும் ததீம் கிண்ணத்தும் தீம் ததீம் தத்ததி கிண்ணத்தும் ததீம் கிண்ணத்தும் ததீம் கிண்ணத்தும் ததீம் கிண்ணத்தும் தீம் ததீம் தத்ததி கிண்ணத்தும் ததீம் கிண்ணத்தும் ததீம் கிண்ணத்தும் ததீம் கிண்ணத்தும் ததீம் கிண்ணத்தும் கடதுக்கு தரி கடதும் கடதுக்கு தரி கடதும் ததீம் கிண்ணத்தும் கடதுக்கு தரி கடதும் கடதுக்கு தரி கடதும் உரமிகும் சூரனை இருக்கூறாக்கி சேவலும் மயிலுமாய் ஒரு மாறவேல் விடுத்த உரமிகும் சூரனை இருக்கூறாக்கி சேவலும் மயிலுமாய் ஒரு மாறவேல் விடுத்த சுரனே சுரர் ஒரு மறுவி அழகனே மலை மகள் மகனே சுரர் மகள் சுரர் அழகனே மலை மகள் மகனே சுரர் மகள் ஒரு பால் புறமகள் ஒரு பால் மறுவிடும் அழகனே மலை மகள் மகனே பா தாப்ப மக மதா சானி தாப்ப மக நிதாப்ப மகரி தாப்ப கரி கம்ம பாமகரி கமப்ப தப நித சானி ரிச நிசத நிசா சாத நிரி ரினித பத நிசரி சரி கரி சானித நிசரி சரி ரிரி கமகரி சரி கரி சானித நிகரி நிரி நித நித பத பகம் பதப்ப தப்ப மக மத மக நிதப்ப மகரி தப்ப காரி சரி 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 தப்ப மகரி கம தப்ப நித சனி நிசத நிசா சாத நிரி நிரி தபத நிசரி சரி கரி சா நித நிசரி சரி நிரி கமதாரி சரி கரி சா நித நிரி நிரி கரி பத கம பதனி மனமிரங்கி வந்தருள்வாய் நீலமயில் வாகனனே நீ மனமிரங்கி வந்தருள்வாய் சேர்ந்து தாவடியாட்டத்தில் நாட்டம் மூவடி கேட்டு மூவுலகம் அளந்த முகுந்தனின் மருகனே முருகென்றாடும் பரமனுக்கு குருவடிவாய் போர் பொருள் உரைத்தாய் திருவடிகள் காணும் வகையறியாத வாடி மயங்கி தேடி அலைந்த என் முன்னி மனமிரங்கி வந்தருள்வாய் நீலமயில் வாகனனே நீ மனமிரங்கி வந்தருள்வாய் முருகா ஷண்முகா வேலனே தெய்வானே மருவும் குணசீலனே தருணமீது தயை புரிய 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 மா க ரீ சா ಧಾಪ ಗಾಮ ಪದ ಪ ಮ ಗ ರೀ ಸ ಧಾಪ ಗಾಮ ಪದ வேலனே தெய்வானே மருவும் குணசீலனே தருணமீது தயை புரிய ஆதாரம் என்று உன்னை நம்பினேன் ஆதாரம் உன்னை நம்பினேன் வேலனே தெய்வானே மருவும் குணசீலனே தருணமே தயை புரிய நீ தபம பதனி கம பதனி சரி கரி சனி சானி தப பத குணசீலனே தருணமீது தயை புரிய நீ பிரணவ பொருள் நீ ஞான பழம் நீ கருணை கடல் நீ பன்னிருகை நீ பிரணவ பொருள் நீ ஞான பழம் நீ கருணை கடல் நீ பன்னிருகை வேலனே தெய்வானை மருவும் குணசீலனே தருணமீது தயை புரிய தாதா பதனி பத பமகமத தா தரி சனி தனி தப்ப மத தா சரி கரி சனி தப்ப மபத தா பமகரி சரி கம பத வேலனே தெய்வானே மருவும் குணசீலனே தருணமீது தயை புரிய வேதா விதியின் விதி அழித்து பதம் தாதா தளிகை மலை வாழும் குருநாதா அமரர் தொழும் கமல மலர் பாதா அடிமை என் மேல் வாக வேலனே தெய்வானை மருவும் குணசீலனே தருணமீது தயை புரிய சாசா சனி தப்ப மகதி கம பாபா பத நிதப கம பத நிசா சரி கரி சனி நீ நிரி சனி தத தத நிதப்ப மப பத நிச ச பத நிதரி சனி ச நிசரி சரீரி சரி கம கரி சனி நிதரி சரி நிகரி நித நிரி நிரி நித பம பத பமகரி சனித பம கரி சனித வேலனே தெய்வானே மருவும் குணசீலனே தருணமீது தயை புரிய வேலனே தெய்வானே மருவும் குணசீலனே தருணமீது தயை புரிய வேலனே முருகா சுப்பிரமணியனே கந்தனே ஷண்முகா அப்பனே பழனிமலை அப்பனே முருகா
Early 1970s, when Manaka came to Canada, was the heyday of Canadian multiculturalism. The Indian immigrants of that period and were aware of their classical art forms. They viewed them as admirable repositories of Indian ethos, social and individual values, religion and spirituality. They needed them for themselves and their children to recapture their sense of self. Manaka's response was twofold. She soon established a thriving performing career all over Canada and founded the first major institution of Indian arts, her dance school, Nritya Kala, and later her creation and performance-oriented Manaka Thakkar Dance Company. In response to demand for dance instruction from various cities in Canada, she also undertook a back-breaking schedule of traveling to teach intensively in Winnipeg, Regina, Saskatoon, Thunder Bay, and St. John's, Newfoundland. Within 8 years, she had produced a number of rigorously trained professional Bharatanatyam dancers across Canada and took some of them as part of her company to perform in distant places, particularly in India, where the Indian press identified it as the first Indo-Canadian company of Bharatanatyam. It was clear that Indian dance was firmly transplanted into the Canadian soil and was now moving in both directions, carrying a new vision of India-Canada cultural relationship.
Now it was time to look around and absorb nourishment from the fertile soil of Canada. Living in Toronto in that vibrant period, I felt more like a world citizen rather than merely a Canadian or an Indian. I came in contact with so many different cultural communities and their dance systems. Western contemporary, Arabian, Chinese, Spanish, and such other diverse dance styles. They all began to excite me. Watching them more closely and working with them more intimately, I began to realize that beneath all the seeming differences between them, there were so many unsuspected interconnections at deeper level of inner physical processes. Behind all the cultural differences, we all dancers share our common human heritage, namely a human body. I wanted to explore all the possibilities inherent in this common possession. Then I began to collaborate with Canadian choreographers such as Grant Stretty, Robert DeRosier, Claudia Moore, Danny Grossman, Patrick Parson, William Lau, and many more. Also, music composers like Alex Pauk, Eric Kareski, Tim Sullivan, and Roll Allen. My period of experimenting with a possible fusion choreography had started. To other dance systems and physical cultures such as Western contemporary, Graham technique, Japanese Buto, martial arts of Kalaripayattu, and yoga so as to broaden their minds and train their bodies more fully. In shapes and rhythms, which I choreographed during this period, I generally use free creative movements from several Indian dance traditions and set them to a musical score by Ron Allen, who had been trained and used both Western and Indian musical systems and instrumentation. I wanted to make it an explosion of color, sound, shapes, and movements beyond the structural boundaries of a traditional choreography. The shadows lengthen, the evening descends, the birds come home to roost. We come home to the Bharatanatyam tradition and conclude with a classical Tillana, although in my own neoclassical group format, in Rag Kuntalavarali by famous Sri Balamurali Krishnan. This homecoming is laden with all the richness and fullness of the journey and not merely a return to the familiar base. Intensive work with other dance forms and new experiments has strengthened my roots in my own tradition in a more meaningful way that Rukmini Devi emphasized when she said, tradition is not something one inherits, but something one labors to repossess differently in every period of history.
അസമാനമാനത്തില്ലാന മുരളീഗാന വിനോദമാനത്തില്ലാന കുന്തലവരാളി രാഗമാനത് തില്ലാന നദ്രിദീം തദരതനി നദ്രിദ്രിതും നദ്രിദ്രിതും ദീം തനന തില്ലാന നദ്രിദീം തദരതനി നദ്രിദ്രിതും നദ്രിദ്രിതും ദീം തനന തില്ലാന നദ്രിദീം തദരതനി നദ്രിദ്രിതും നദ്രിദ്രിതും ദീം തനന തില്ലാന നദ്രിദീം തദരതനി 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 നദ്രിദ്രിതും ദീം
తగదతని నదృకం దీని తనన తిందాన నాదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీని తనన తిందాన నదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీని తనన తిందాన నాదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీని తనన తిందాన నదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీంతనన తిల్లాన నదృది తగదతని నదృకం తగదతని నదృకం దీంతనన తిల్లాన నదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీంతనన తజను దిమిత జను తదిమిత దరిగడగడ తగద జను దిమిత జను తదిమిత దరిగడగడ తగద జను దిమిత జను తదిమిత దరిగడగడ తగద తజి 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 తనిత తిల్లాన నదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీంతనన తిల్లాన నదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీంతనన తటికిట తక్ది తటికిట తకతం తటికిట తకణం తటికిట తకతిల్లాన నదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీంతనన తిల్లాన నదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీంతనన తత్తటి కిటతక తిత్తటి కిటతక దొందట్టి కిటతకనం తట్టి కిటతక తిల్లాన నదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీంతనన తిల్లాన నదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీంతనన తట్టికిట తక్కది తట్టికిట తక్కదుం తట్టికిట తక్కనం తట్టికిట తక్క తట్టడికిట తక్కది తట్టికిట తక్కదుం తట్టికిట తక్కనం తట్టికిట తక్కదిల్లాన నదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీంతనన తట్టికిట తక్కది తట్టికిట తక్కదుం తట్టికిట తక్కనం తట్టికిట తక్క తట్టడికిట తక్కది తట్టికిట తక్కదుం తట్టికిట తక్కనం తట్టికిట తక్కదిల్లాన నదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీంతనన తిల్లాన నదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీంతనన తకిటజం గదనిద కిటజం పనిద తజం నిద తిల్లాన నదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీంతనన తకిటజం కిటజం తజం తిల్లాన నదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీంతనన తిల్లాన నదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీంతనన తక్కిట తదింతినతం దుమ్ననన 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 నదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీంతనన తక్కిట తదింతినతం దుమ్ననన 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 తిల్లాన నదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీంతనన తక్కిట తదింతినతం దుమ్ననన తక్కిట తదింతినతం దుమ్ననన తక్కిట తదింతినతం దుమ్ననన తక్కిట తదింతినతం తిల్లాన నదృది తగదతని నదృకం దీంతనన తక్కిట తదింతినతం దుమ్ననన తక్కిట తదింతినతం దుమ్ననన తక్కిట తదింతినతం దుమ్ననన తక్కిట తదింతినతం అసమానమాన తిల్లాన అసమానమాన తిల్లాన మురళీగాన వినోదమాన తిల్లాన కుంతలవరాళి రాగమానదు కుంతలవరాళి రాగమానదు సమపని దశ sani da pa ma sa ma pa ni da sa sani da pa ma sa junu dimita tarigida gada gada junu dimita tarigida gada gada junu dimita tarigida gada gada jum tatita jam 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 tatita tilana nadridim sadata tani nadridim nadridim din tanana tilana nadridim sadata tani nadridim nadridim din tanana tilana nadridim tani nadridim nadridim din tanana tilana nadridim sadata tani nadridim nadridim din tanana tilana nadridim dim tilana nadridim dim dim tilana nadridim
Well, that was in the further soil, and it reflected Manaka's experience with the transplantation of this dance tradition. This is only part one of Manaka's work in the transplantation. We are still in the process of making the part two that will reflect all her choreographic works of massive proportions and her experiments in fusion dance and so on. But we decided to make this film at this stage just because I think it reflects the initial concerns that Manaka had, and all of us, as I said in the beginning, all of us would have the same concerns, and the result was this film. We are also going to show another film, again Manaka's creation, because I believe that these two films will prepare the audience to reflect upon some of the basic concerns and some of the basic possible experiments that one can do when one encounters a very powerful another dance culture, and then one's creativity is stimulated so that you want to really experiment. The new work that we are going to show you now is also a reflection on the new technology. This was done in 2014. At that time, we had the live streaming technology in our hands, and we wanted to make a beginning of it, pointing out all the advantages of not only transmission of a dance program to distant multiple locations, but at the same time, we also wanted to take the first step, and then our hopes were that we would continue with the new technology in subsequent Kalanidhi festivals. That day has come now. In 2014, we made this experiment in what we called the Mumbai-Toronto simulcast. And then in 2015, we skipped, did not hold the festival. So this one is the second step in the application of this technology, this particular upcoming festival, where we are trying to use the technology on such a large scale that not only one particular dance production of the festival, but the entire festival is going to be live streamed, and that too in a two-way direction, so that the presentations of dance in the festival will be streamed out to other locations, and productions and the choreographies of other locations, such as India, will be brought into the festival. We are going to, as I said, we are going to talk more about this two-way transmission in the following 2 weeks or so, which is what we want to do in this particular open house concept. We want to discuss, explain, raise questions, raise discussions about the new technology before we come to the final presentation in the festival itself. The new work that we are now going to present to you is also based upon Menka's work, and that is based upon a very important theme that our India's very well-known poet Rabindranath Tagore had himself experimented with. It is based upon a story from the Indian epic Mahabharata, and Tagore used the bare bones of the story to develop his own vision of the relationship between man and woman, particularly the equality between the genders, in a very poetic way. Rabindranath Tagore had experimented in his own works over a fairly long period, I believe, of more than 2 decades. And this particular story, which relates to the Mahabharata hero Arjuna of the Pandava clan, and the princess of Manipur, Chitra. The original story simply says that Chitra, the princess of Manipur, was a very accomplished woman, but she was brought up as a in all aspects of human living, and therefore she was also brought up not only as a woman but also as a man in all the pursuits of manly governing of a kingdom. Arjuna, on one of his exiles, meets the princess and falls in love, but not before a certain magical moment has arrived. The princess, because she was brought up in all the manly pursuits, did not simply have the feminine beauty, but she had manly strength and a leadership quality. That did not attract Arjuna in the beginning, but later on, when Chitra realized that all her manly growing up was actually robbing her of the womanly charm, she was a bit disappointed, frustrated, and she asked for a boon that changed her for 1 year into an all lovely woman. She wanted to attract Arjuna by this side of her character, not fully realizing that the integration of the both, if both the male and the female qualities ultimately would define a total human being, and therefore simply attracting Arjuna by changing into the womanly charm was not going to be enough. Ultimately, as a very well-rounded human being, she'll have to find a place in Arjuna's life, and Arjuna will have to recognize the totality of a human being and not only one gender against the other. It's a beautiful theme with such deep philosophical significance, and Menka decided to take on this story and turn it into a dance production. And she decided that she would have two princesses. One, the manly princess before her transformation into an all lovely woman, and the two dance styles which would characterize the two different roles would be Bharatanatyam for the princess in her early role, more as a ruler, more as a masculine personality. And she would also use Odissi, the very feminine, very charming, very delightful dance style, lyrical dance style almost. And that would characterize the role of the princess after her transformation into all woman. Menka had learned both styles, and therefore it would suit her. The film, this particular representation of the story that you'll see now has two different characters, the two different women, the Odissi dancer and the Bharatanatyam dancer. So there's a very clear-cut distinction, and the transformation from one into the other becomes the dividing line. In case of Menka, she herself did both roles before and after transformation. There is another significance to this particular story, and that is that the older sister Sudha, to whom we are paying tribute by this festival, who has been the soul, heart and soul of this entire Kalanidhi enterprise of international festivals of Indian dance. But Sudha, in her own early career as a dancer, as a choreographer, had tackled this very theme. But remember, she had done this, when was it? I believe it was 1950s. 1950s, maybe 60, 65 years before. And Menka had some part to play in that dance production when she was a young dancer. Now Menka was tackling the same theme but in a very different way from Sudha's, and yet this production would evoke very strongly the memory of Sudha and all those years. So we are going to see this. It is rather self-explanatory because there is a narration on the soundtrack, and there are dialogues and so on. So with all the music of Odissi and Bharatanatyam and dance based upon that, I think the flow of the English narration will make it very clear to the audiences as to how the story flows. Chitra, originally based upon, it is not entirely based upon Tagore. I was the script writer and I really relied upon Tagore's basic ideas, but then I extended them to a certain extent. And the resulting script, although it does reflect the basic undertones of Tagore, and therefore I owe very greatly to him, but after all, it is a bit of an extension and totally a different dance production. Tagore did not deal with Bharatanatyam and Odissi, but we thought that this is how we would like to do it. It is in the spirit of Tagore. So let's watch Chitra, the Warrior Princess. Thank you.
Thus it was that Arjuna had parted from me years ago, before our son was born. Now I have no ties. I am free, free and alone, left only with memories that will mix all time and turn yesterdays into today. It was a fateful day when, as a young princess, I set out on a hunting expedition with my friends. I delighted in all manly pursuits. My parents had brought me up as their son, not their daughter. And I had learned to spurn and scorn all my feminine instincts. I always thought and felt like a man, not a woman. Until I met Arjuna on that fateful day. blocking the path of Princess Chitra? Does he not fear instant death? But he stood there, rock-like, with his gaze fixed in the distance. Suddenly, strange feelings began to arise in my heart. I was bewildered. For the first time in my life, I felt like a woman. I was seized by a force beyond all understanding that had no thought, no memory, no shame, no pride. I was crushed by his indifference. For him, I did not exist at all. A woman, devoid of all beauty and grace. All my life seemed to be in vain. My cultivated manhood was a lie against nature. But the moment of despair passed. I was not the one to lament and languish for long. I would pray to Lord Madan for a boon that would turn me into a real woman. Lovely and sensuous. seasons changed. From the tentative intimacy of young, loving spring, it acquired the heated passions of summer and brief separation and longing caused by the incessant rains of monsoon. However, with the onset of winter, the barren landscape began giving rise to a sense of loss and grief. The hollowness of Arjuna's attraction to only my external beauty increased my agony and sense of pointlessness. On the other hand, Arjuna too was getting ashamed of his aimless life of endless lust and laziness. He was acutely aware of the loss of his true.
my love, a warrior? Who are you?
Yes, my love, a warrior. But I am also the woman you have loved so passionately since the last spring. I stand here, shorn of all my intoxicating beauty that had captivated you. That wasn't just and off that woman broken me but it constantly tormented me to think that you loved the borrowed beauty sitting on my exterior, not the real me inside. The year of deceit is over. The outward trappings of love are gone. Now I stand bare before you, but not bereft of our fully awakened my innate femininity. And it blends so beautifully in every atom of my former manly exterior. Now I have become both the woman you loved and the woman you spurned months ago. I am Chitra. In the rough and tumble of this life, but devoid of love and tenderness. I am both. And if you now accept me as I am, you will be united with that ultimate me. The real Chitra.
All these months, I held you in my arms and imagined you were within my grasp. But you always eluded me. An unfathomable mystery hung over you. In the early days of our love, I was blind to everything about you. But your beauty and the heavenly ecstasy go into my life. I thought it was the eternal and ultimate truth of my life. Ah, what an illusion it was. Then, in deep winter, a sudden hollowness beyond understanding seized my entire. Then, the bat saved me. My innermost chords were made softer by an inner tenderness. And that is your gift. You have made me discover that ultimate truth in me. Come, beloved, come into my life. Our union is now complete, and we shall build our life together.
No, my love. Our union will be complete, will rest inner union. For the paths of our outer life will diverge in different directions. I am destined to be the ruler of this land. My subjects need my protection. Your vow demands that you do not stay for more than a year is over, and you will have parting will be our true union. If your babe, whom I am nourishing in my womb, be born a son, I shall myself teach him to be a second Arjuna and send him to you when the time comes.
Yes, he will be my true son, raised to be a real man by his mother. You will remain my eternal bride. But like no other bride, separated by long distances,
choreographed it about 3 years ago, and we cherish it now because it evokes the memory of Sudha, who too had dealt with this theme, although in a very different way and a different choreography. We are now going to close this evening, but we are going to meet tomorrow at 12 o'clock in another session of the open house, Kalanidhi open house. And we are going to talk about the upcoming festivals. Choreograph them together will also give us a sense of where we are today artistically. In terms of the technology, we shall once again have examples of transmission over long distances using live streaming technology. And we shall have a symposium that will discuss various issues and challenges related to this. We are going to other artists. I shall try to interview them in their own work, their creativity, their vision, and so on. We shall also talk about the dance styles themselves. I shall also point out the ticketing aspect of the festival and how you can buy tickets to a variety of and hope that you will for 3 weekends, Saturday. So till then, goodbye.